Hey guys, and welcome back to Hoosier Hardware. Today I want to walk through the process of building a Dell Optiplex gaming PC here in 2022 now that prices of GPUs have come down a little bit. And the spoiler with this one is don't actually build this PC I'm going to walk you through because the 4th gen Intel CPUs are quite out of date, has like no upgradability whatsoever, but in case you are interested in building one of these things, then here we go, I suppose. But first I want to showcase an item that I use on a daily basis, both for this camera that is recording right now, as well as my laptop. But we're looking at the Anker 2 Nano, the Anker Nano 2 chargers. These things are absolutely tiny. I have a couple of them. I'll probably end up acquiring more of them, but they have fantastic wattages for the size. This is a 65 watt charger, and to give you a little bit of an idea of how tiny it is, this is the charger, and over here is my my OnePlus Buds Pro case, and the case is actually bigger. These things are tiny. Gallium nitride, or whatever the new charging technology is what these are using, so they are absolutely tiny. The 30 watt charger is even smaller that I have, so links to those chargers in the description down below. With that, let's hop over and take a look at what it costs to actually build one of these gaming PCs you should not be building. And of course, our first stop to actually get one of these things going is to head over to eBay and just search for Dell Optiplexes. Now, I usually, when I'm doing these builds, or when I have done these types of very cheap gaming PCs in the past, what I do is go for 16 gigabytes of RAM. That's going to be DDR3, what we're going to be looking for. And I like the i7 4th gens. And the reason I like these i7s and not later generations, you can still swap out the power supplies with a simple adapter, whereas the subsequent models of the Optiplexes use a much more proprietary and much more headache-inducing power supply setup, to the point where it's not really that much value for you to be using those newer Optiplexes. So we're going to target the i7s, the 4th gen i7s. SSDs, hard drives, we don't really care about any of that. I go to buy it now. I'm going to sort that this way, and here we go. Now, when the Optiplexes pop up, you're going to see a lot of small form factor ones. They tend to run a little bit cheaper than the mini tower ones that we're looking for, and this is the type of thing that we are targeting here. It looks like to get one with the i7 4790 we're targeting, plus the 16 gigabytes of RAM, we're looking at about $165-$166 or so, somewhere in that range. Regardless, you could put in an offer on this build, but because it is the cheapest one on eBay right now, I don't really know that you would be overly successful with that. So we're going to price it out as it is listed, including the cost of shipping, because there really is no way around that as well. The bonus that we're not really going to use in this build would be that 500 gigabyte hard drive. It's going to be crazy slow, so I maybe use it for like media storage or something, but we're going to worry about that later. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and factor in this price. So the next thing we're going to need is one of these 24-pin to 8-pin ATX power adapters. That's all we're going to need to be able to replace that power supply that comes with this build. So we're going to go ahead and add $8.97 to the cost. Now, here's where it gets just a little bit weird. Normally, I recommend going over to the EVGA B-Stock website and picking up a very cheap power supply. In fact, within the last week, they had 450 watt units for $20. Is actually like $19.99. However, right now, they don't really have anything that is all that affordable that I would actually recommend purchasing as a good value power supply. So for the moment, we're going to have to skip that. And about the cheapest thing I can find easily, at least, is Amazon here has a power supply. So we're going to factor in $40, which I think is on the high end, and it is very likely within the very near future you can go get a B-Stock power supply for much cheaper than that. But such is life, we're going to factor in $40, bringing us up to $216.32 right now. So we've covered the main part of the build. We've covered, we have the case, power supply now, we have motherboard, RAM, CPU, we need storage, and a GPU now. Now for SSDs, you need a SATA SSD, and you're looking for basically the cheapest thing you can find for the capacity that you want. I recommend a 1 terabyte SSD because it gives you plenty of storage for several games, especially in a world where games are always getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Unfortunately, it looks like they're a little bit more expensive now than they were, say, 4 or 5 months ago. So I'm going to recommend, this super cheap one here. And if you find one cheaper, then just go with that, because these are all sort of commodity class, not performance champion type SSDs. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to round off to $73 to our cost. That brings us up to just shy of $300, leaving us with one part left, and that is a dedicated GPU. Now, finally, for our GPU, I really like the RX 6600s right now because they are largely in stock at or at least close-ish to their MSRP pricing, and they are a somewhat low-ish power requirement card where if you have a 600-watt power supply that you drop into this Optiplex, it's going to be able to handle a GPU like this no problem. Now, that all being said, if you can find an RTX 3060 maybe on EVGA's B-Stock website for MSRP or very close to this price, then I would actually recommend going with the NVIDIA route. The one thing you do need to be careful with is the length of these cards need to be about 10 inches is kind of right on the long end where you can fit into one of these Optiplex systems. I don't have one in front of me that I can actually measure the exact length requirement, so do some research if you're looking into building this, which you absolutely, once again, should not be building, but this MSI Mech card that I have pulled up is a great candidate because it's something like 9.5 inches long. I actually have one of these cards, and it would fit right into this Optiplex system and have you up and running with an i7 quad core. You'd have 16 gigabytes of RAM, you'd have an SSD to run off of, you would have a really solid GPU, you would absolutely be CPU bound in most of your titles that you're going to be running. But let's go ahead and pop over to my calculator here and add in my $350. So you're looking at a $640-ish build. Now, what I would actually recommend doing is going down a step with your GPU and maybe getting something like a RTX 2060 or a GTX 1060 may even be a better fit with these CPUs. Just making sure, once again, to get ones that will actually fit into the Optiplex systems. And you could save yourself a little bit of money by doing that, get maybe a little bit closer to the $500 price point. But that is how you would go about here in 2022 building a Dell Optiplex system. And to be clear, this would be a really solid gaming PC on most titles up until the last couple of years, where CPUs are really getting pushed past the point where 4 cores and 8 threads is enough. So that's really it. If you want to build yourself a gaming PC out of a Dell Optiplex Office PC, yeah, you can still do that here in 2022. We do not recommend that, though. Here, Who's Your Hardware? Because, well, the fully custom route's probably in almost all cases better. You're probably not going to spend a whole lot more with a fully custom PC if you're able to utilize the local marketplaces, whether that's Facebook, Craigslist, whatever, and you're going to get yourself a much more upgradable PC with parts that you're going to be able to carry over to future iterations, like your cases, your cooling solutions, that sort of thing, whereas with Optiplexes, you're kind of stuck with a lot of your parts. Now, obviously, with an Optiplex, you could carry forward your GPU, your SSD, but a lot of those parts are going to have to be replaced with your future iteration of your gaming PC. But if you really want to, yeah, you can do it for a reasonable-ish price here in 2022. But that's kind of it for this build that you should not be building yourself. But if you are somebody out there that does run a Dell Optiplex gaming PC, let me know in those comments down below how that's going for you here in 2022. When did you build it? What are the parts? And most importantly, are you still happy with it, or are you looking to upgrade in the very near future? Otherwise, YouTube's gonna queue up some more videos for you to watch from my channel. But if you liked it and you have made it this far in the video, that like button down there is excellent and helps out the channel a lot. Otherwise, I'm Shane with Who's Your Hardware, and I am out of here.